Online dating 30 years on, is it still worth the gamble?
I want a nice person. He has to be well endowed and last more than a minute.
Okay.
It does say that on my profile.
I truly do believe that there are good men out there. They're not on dating apps.
The apps absolutely have changed over time.
You market the most attractive people on the apps and you sort of dangle their photos in front of people and you get them to spend on hope.
Where you live, is it easy to sort of meet single women?
I'm afraid not. There are a lot of young women, but the question is, how many of them are single?
Cassandra, you live in Darwin. You once drove 9 hours for a date. This was with a man you met online. Was it worth it?
In one respect, yes, because I got to meet a lovely person, but unfortunately it just left me empty because then I was ghosted.
When he ghosted you, how did that make you feel?
You question yourself as an individual to say, what is it that's going to take someone to notice me and see a genuine person in me? So it does make you question yourself.
Are apps the only way you tend to meet men?
No, my last partner, I actually met him in a bar.
Do you mind me asking what your current relationship status is at the moment?
Absolutely single and still looking and hoping for the best.
Still on the apps?
Yes.
Amanda, you're Cassandra's sister. Are you on the dating apps as well?
Yes, mainly Tinder, but I'm on POF and Bumble.
How does your mum feel about it?
She doesn't like me because she snoops on my phone and I get a notification. I get in big trouble. She still scolds me. Like, what are you doing on there? Don't you know people get killed on that site? Yeah.
What are you looking for in a man?
I want a nice person. And on my profile, it says he has to be well endowed and last more than a minute.
Okay.
It does say that on my profile. Yes.
Cassandra, do you have a list of things that you're looking for?
I have a list of things, and in my younger years, it was 5 things. 1, he had to have a degree, because I have a degree. He had to be 6 foot tall, because I love tall men. He had to show that he had a good quality and a good relationship with his mother. He had to have no hair on his chest, because I don't like hairy men. And there is a 5th one, but yeah, so my list was a list of 5.
Amanda, do you and Cassandra kind of help each other look for matches?
We do that, and because we're sisters and we live together, we also make sure that we're not matching and swiping with the same guy.
Oh.
So it's more of that as well, yeah. There we are right there.
Right, so you sit around, have a cup of tea,
Yeah.
look at each other's phones.
Yeah, that's us.
Okay. Josh, when did you first go online to meet someone?
I would say I started around 15. I grew up in a small country town, Christian family. I kind of was questioning sexuality, but being from a more Christian base, I sort of didn't know where I fitted in.
Which online platforms were you using at the time?
Back then, I think it was more innocent in the sense of like MSN Messenger, MySpace. Like I sort of started in that area. Me being me, a little bit naive, kind of trying to fit in, I sort of would talk to people and feel comfortable, but then you sort of start to get into some dangerous situations.
Do you know where the people were that you were chatting to?
No, I mean, most people would say they're in, say, New South Wales, that's where I grew up, but you wouldn't know. And, you know, after long times of talking to people, you then may find out that they're in their 60s and they're talking to a 15-year-old and they know I'm 15, so.
In those chats, what were you looking for?
For me, it was trying to find a place that I could feel comfortable. So I sort of wanted to put myself out there and find it. We now know that dating apps have been invented and, you know, there's a positive to those to kind of help broaden the search for that.
What was that experience like, having those conversations?
It was very thrilling. There was a real thrill to the validation it could give you. For me, I found divulging into the gay community in general is quite confronting. It's very sexualised. So being a young teenager and also opening up those doors did sort of shock me, especially with the values I grew up in, with being in church and being in a Christian family. It kind of was an extreme, in my view, of what you'd be confronted with on a daily basis.
Linda, you tried dating apps for the first time in your 50s after you got divorced.
Yes.
How did that go?
Not really very well, unfortunately. I've been on quite a few different dating sites. I started off with RSVP and I paid for that particular subscription, but never really found anybody that I matched with. Sometimes you would find that you would match and then you'd never hear from them again. And I've actually found that with a lot of the dating sites as well, that I do feel very strongly about the fact that A lot of the profiles that are up there just simply aren't real or they haven't been taken down.
What did you find that men were looking for?
Sex.
Did they say that to you explicitly?
I had one particular guy make the comment, because I actually live in rural Victoria, and so a lot of the men that I would match with, basically from Melbourne or in the suburbs of Melbourne, and as soon as they realised where I was from, I had one man actually just make the comment and said, oh, that's a long way to go for a route. There's been times where I've met men, they've been very nice on the phone, and you think, oh, okay, maybe this guy's okay, hasn't brought up sex, and then you meet them, then they'll, put the hard word on you when you're actually meeting them for either a coffee or a drink.
Where has all that left you?
Discouraged. I truly do believe that there are good men out there and they're not on dating apps, definitely.
Lisa, you did your PhD on online intimacy and dating apps. We've been looking for love online for about 3 decades now. How has that scene evolved?
Initially, it was very much computer-based, so it was kind of your RSVPs and eHarmony, where it was quite a complex sort of questionnaire that you had to fill out. It's only been in the last sort of 20 years that things have changed. So Grindr was actually the first on the scene from a dating app perspective in 2009, and Tinder followed in 2012.
Do you have stats around how many people actually meet their person online?
Yes, so this tends to vary. So there are stats from around 20 to 50% of people actually do meet someone in the online domain. My research would indicate that that's slightly lower, so more around the 40% mark.
Do you know how many of us are actually using dating apps?
Dating apps are a little bit, blurred in terms of these types of stats, but it looks to be around 3 million in Australia and around 366 million across the world.
That's a lot.
Yes, so there's certainly indication that apps like Tinder have more men on them, and apps like Ashley Madison, which is not surprising, and apps like Bumble are more skewed towards women. So certainly there is a gender split, yes.
Angus, you're an investment analyst. You own shares in Match Group and Bumble. How do dating apps monetise our search for love?
The way that they monetise, we tend to assume it's a bit more like social media, where generally it's just advertising is how those companies generate revenue. But with the dating apps, most of them, it's actually about 1 in 10 people are willing to pay, willing to spend anything. And then it might only be about 0.5% of users who are generating 60% of revenue, and your top 2% are probably generating about 95% of revenue. So really, it's a small, limited group of super users who drive the revenue for these companies. And what they're really selling is you market the most attractive people on the apps and you sort of dangle their photos in front of people and you get them to spend on hope. So really, people are kind of spending money on the hope that they might connect with a person through the app.
Michael, many of us followed your journey of finding love on the TV show Love on the Spectrum.
I don't really need to introduce myself because you already know who I am. Michael, of course.
So you love English culture?
Yeah.
What's your favourite?
They're cheeses.
I don't have a TV at home.
That sucks.
Would you like to hold hands?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Michael, you're still looking for a girlfriend and you're now on dating apps. What's that been like?
Honestly, it's been a bit of a journey, I suppose. The first time I ever used a dating app was back in 2018 on eHarmony for 12 months. My attention was caught by one person, but instead of communicating with me on the app, this person sent me 2 long emails, and my sister helped me determine that this person was actually a fraud.
Where you live, is it easy to sort of meet single women?
I'm afraid not, because where I live in Wollongong, that's more of a place for university students, people who are old and retired, and people that are parents with little kids. I will admit that there are a lot of young women in Wollongong, but the question is, how many of them are single?
What apps have you used, Michael?
eHarmony I've definitely used. I did try Bumble for a brief time, for about a few weeks, but that got me nowhere.
You're now using a new app. What is that?
That's called Wable. It's designed for people on the autism spectrum, or neurodiverse people is the more appropriate word.
So Wable stands for willing and able.
Yep, that's right.
And how's that been going?
That's actually been going quite well, but the app is still in its infancy stage because it debuted only 2 months ago.
How would you describe yourself to a potential love interest?
Someone who's hardworking, loving, accommodating, and undyingly loyal, and someone who would be willing to give up his own life to save someone else's.
You sound like a real romantic.
I am.
And a gentleman?
Yep, I was raised to be one. My father did, actually.
Geeta, after your 41-year marriage ended, you went online. What were you looking for?
I had just moved from Adelaide to Melbourne, and with that I needed to find friends my age, and yes, I was looking for romance if it came along as well.
Did you find any apps or sites that you felt were worth joining?
I came across a few apps online, but the one that I did join was Stitch. It was community-based, and basically we would meet people and go out to dinners and lunches. So it wasn't like one-on-one, it was group friendship, and so it was more natural to meet someone that suited you, or yeah.
You have adult daughters. How did they feel about you using these apps?
Well, just moving to Melbourne, I was actually living with my eldest daughter at the time and her family. And yeah, I got the 3rd degree. So it was like, where are you going? And what time will you be coming home?
Oh, really?
I know, it was awful.
Did they give you any sort of hints of make sure you go for a date here, not there, anything like that?
Definitely, yes. Yeah. Or they wanted to know exactly where I was going. So I gave them the address. But Stitch, they had verified, all their members are verified to make sure that they are a real person. So I felt safe.
Michael, what about your family? How do they feel about you dating online?
My mother tends to watch from a distance, and so does my brother, actually. It's more of my dad and sister that tend to be a little bit like helicopters, especially if I meet somebody online. It's because after the show aired, they're sometimes a little bit concerned that whoever I meet online could only be interested in using me for something. But the question is, what?
What are the benefits of dating apps for a neurodiverse person?
On Wable, we have several security measures to prevent the users from being catfished, and there's also useful tools like clips of the psychologist on dealing with nerves about dating and about rejection as well.
Daryl, before online dating even existed, you tried an interesting way to find love. What was it?
There was a game show on television 35 years ago called Perfect Match.
I remember it.
Yeah, I went on Perfect Match as a contestant.
How did that go?
I would hardly say it had much really to do with love. It was a game show.
For those of us who don't know Perfect Match, you've missed out. Just explain how the show worked.
One girl would choose from 3 guys from behind a screen, ask questions and pick one, and then the screen would roll back and the 2 would go off on a paid interstate holiday date for a weekend.
Let's take a trip down memory lane.
Like peaches and cream, the culture team, like sand in the sea, the birds and the bees, like an oyster and a pearl, the guy and a girl. What have you got? You got a perfect match.
Yes, it's Perfect Match. Now welcome the star of our show, Craig Evans.
Daryl, did you meet your perfect match then?
No. It was a nice holiday, and she had her holiday and I had mine at the same place, but it was a lot of fun. The show was a lot of fun.
It looked like a lot of fun. When that didn't work for you, did you try online dating?
24 years ago, I tried online dating, and I found then, and I still do, I don't understand it, how so many people can be thinking or seeing about so many different people. So that experience I had, I met somebody online who I was seeing regularly. It was nice for about 6 months. But as soon as I met one person, I disconnected completely that website.
Did you try dating apps at any point?
No. you date someone that you're interested in, well, why would you want to be going out with other people at the same time? You know, I'm not criticising or judging other people, but it's not for me. I don't understand it.
Angus, you've got shares in 2 of these apps. Have you also invested in them on a personal level?
Yeah, I have. They've been pretty bad investments on a financial level, but on a personal level, I've had much better experiences in a way. When I first started, so in about 2013, I remember I started on Tinder, and there was so much kind of emotional investment in it initially. And I remember you sort of seeing this person, and the thing that's going through your head is, you know, could this person be my future partner? But then you get so desensitised to that after a while. And I think it's a little bit like the scratchy, where you sort of, you know, just before you scratch, you think, what if I win that $100,000? How will this change my life?
Can you relate to this sort of multi-dating culture that Daryl talks about?
Yeah, I mean, in America, I'd only been there for a few months. I'd moved in with a housemate, a very nice girl, and she would sort of see one bloke on Tuesdays and Saturdays, another guy on Wednesdays and Sundays, and all power to her. But I remember she said to me after a couple of months, she's like, this guy and I, we've had the conversation, we're exclusive now. And I remember my jaw just going, and in LA at that time, until you had had the conversation, which might happen after 6 months, or it might not even really happen, until you have that conversation, no one's kind of exclusive. And that was so diametrically opposed to how my Australian friends, you know, who sort of stumbled into their relationship, sort of, it was almost a de facto assumption that they were together after a certain period of time. There was never a conversation of, we're in a relationship now.
We often hear dating referred to as a game, the dating game. How does that apply to online dating?
Yeah, these things are hugely gamified. One of the most crucial things to sort of understand for the experience that people have, despite people say that they want an authentic romantic experience, they say they want love, but when you actually look at the data on aggregate, generally it is entirely based on how attractive the person is. And so if you are an average looking bloke and you're in a room of 100 people, 100 blokes, you're the 50th looking bloke, so you're the 50th best looking, 50th worst looking guy, you and everyone less good looking than you will get 1% of the likes collectively. So the bottom 50% of men get 1% of the likes. The top 1% of women get more likes than they can possibly deal with. So the apps structure their algorithms in a way that's just trying to optimise for revenue, but create experiences for people that will get them to spend.
Once you get comfortable with dating apps, it just kind of becomes a game. I'm meeting new people, I'm having sex. It's fun. It's just like, you've got to catch them all. So I've kind of used Tinder to help me in a lot of aspects. Buying me meals, cooking food for me, also driving me home when I don't want to catch the train. So at one point, every piece of furniture in my apartment was built by a man I invited over from Tinder. And then we have sex. It's a win-win situation. The way I use apps is controversial. Not everyone's going to approve or agree. I know men are probably going to be against this, telling me, why would you do this? This sounds so bad to say, but they like it. Tinder gives you the immediate validation that you want. I was like very overweight in high school, so like I do get that confidence. Tinder's my empire, okay? I can get anything from this. Just have to act a bit pretty, a bit funny. Because I think I have a very good personality, so even if I don't give them sex, I can at least be their friend. It is kind of like gambling, because you put your best cards out, so your best photos. The other opponent is playing their best cards. Like, yes, oh my God, you got a match, yeah! If you have such a big criteria, don't use apps, or use apps and be open-minded. Apps help you learn about what you like and what you don't like. I have a short attention span, so when I use the apps, I'm like constantly talking to different people, keeping it entertaining. You can't have love at first sight on a dating app, because dating apps are not for Mr. Right, they're for Mr. Right now. It's a win-win.
Jana, are dating apps for finding Mr. Right now rather than Mr. Right?
They are for some people. And one thing I like about her is that she's upfront about it, because I think there's a lot of people on the dating apps that aren't. But the problem is then girls like myself go on dates with these guys who have had really bad experiences with girls like that. And we deal with the after effects. So we deal with the guys that won't take you for a beautiful dinner because they're suspicious of you, or they're suspicious of you through the whole date. because there are girls and guys probably who have mucked them around.
You write a column about your dating experiences. Have you found the one?
I found a couple. I tend to go for emotionally unavailable men. I've learnt that through my writing. I do suffer an affliction called NDE, which is I crave that new dating energy. I'll give them, a solid 3 months, and then I'm looking for that high again. I love that first kiss. I love that first date. I love meeting their friends. And then it tends to flatline. And it's not a great thing to have, but I've certainly suffered from it.
When you're using the apps, do you feel like that sense of draw to keep using them?
I tend to jump on like a Sunday night when I'm feeling a bit lonely. I think it is like a great serotonin boost when you do get matches. But it's also horrible to jump on and, I'm heading towards 40 and I'm very aware that a lot of men on the apps, their cutoff is 40. No matter what age they are, they don't want to date a woman over 40. So I think as fun as it is to get all these matches now, I'm very aware that there's going to come a time where my profile isn't even in front of these guys because, I'm out of their age limit.
The ease of swiping, does it make users, do you think, feel like, just one more swipe and then I've got a match?
Yeah, I think we're now brought up in a world where, we've got Uber Eats, we've got Netflix, everything we want immediately. So we don't want to get dressed up and go to the bar and try and flirt with a guy and bring our best selves. We want to do it from the comfort of our lounge, probably hungover on a Sunday, in our pajamas, putting up our best photos and going, all right, I need a date this week. Let's jump on and see what we can do. So I do think we now want things more immediately and we're not trying as hard to kind of woo people anymore.
Anastasia, you're a psychologist and you've studied how we use dating apps. What have you found?
There are elements that are very similar to gambling, elements that are similar to what keep us hooked on social media. One of the things that makes particularly poker machines quite addictive is the rate at which we can play it. So we can play poker machines quite quickly, we can place those bets quite quickly, and that is something that makes them more risky. When we sort of relate that to dating apps, we can very quickly swipe through profiles and we can do it anywhere at any time. I can be in the lift, in the line waiting for a coffee and swiping through second by second. Add on top of that this perception that there are endless profiles out there and so many people that we can sort of swipe through and so many potential matches, and we kind of have this recipe for something that can be addictive.
What is it about the apps that sort of get us hooked?
So it is really the apps activating those dopamine pathways, and realistically we all have a human desire for love and connection with other people. That's very fundamental to all of us. So what these apps do is essentially gamify that and validate that. Dopamine is activated when something feels good. So if I open the app and I see that I have a match, the dopamine is activated, but it's also activated in the pursuit of something feeling good. So before I actually even open the app, if I'm just thinking about, let me check to see if I actually have any matches there, the dopamine is already activated. And so we see this with gambling, that it doesn't actually require someone to win, but to almost win to have that really reinforcing experience.
Giles, you've been online dating for 6 years. Does it feel like a numbers game to you?
To an extent, yes. Obviously, you can't match with people who you don't attempt to match with, so you do need to keep trying with these sort of things. It also, I must admit, at times feels like it's a numbers game that's rigged against you. So you can end up with sort of a double-edged sword. There's many people tonight have talked about the validation aspect of it and the dopamine hit you get from getting a match. The double-edged sword of that is when you might spend an entire night doing that and you get no matches, no dopamine hit. And then that can start shifting your focus inwards on yourself a bit.
You describe yourself as an introvert.
Absolutely.
Has that affected your ability to meet someone?
I previously was in a long-term relationship for 10 and a half years. We actually met online originally. It wasn't on a dating app, it was on a chat network. For those of you out there who remember IRC, that lasted a very long time, but I am not particularly comfortable approaching people in person. I don't walk up to someone and say, hi, how's it going? Unless I already know them or unless I have a reason to go up and talk to them, and I feel like that would be welcome. So I've always had that. I'm an introvert by nature, and the sector I work in IT and technology, so it's a very similar sort of environment, and the opportunities for meeting other potential matches are fairly slim.
What would your main hobbies be?
Main hobbies, well, besides the tech side of things, I actually really love scuba diving. So travel and scuba diving, particularly to warm tropical places, coral reefs, deep wrecks where you can go inside, that's really great. So I absolutely love doing that sort of thing, but it does mean that it's sort of, a lot of my hobbies are sort of niche hobbies. There is a pretty healthy scene out there of people who love going diving, but most of them already have diving buddies. So it's a bit more limited for people like me.
On the apps, there are premium options which cost extra. Has subscribing to those helped you?
Oddly enough, when you subscribe to those, it actually does provide that slight dopamine hit, because initially you think, oh, my chances are better. But in reality, with those apps, it's really just more of the same. So the experience you get the sample of when you're on the free tier, it's just that times 10. And if you want it times 100, you pay even more money for that. And a lot of those subscription models, they rely on telling you it's a numbers game, or you'll have more luck if you sign up for premium, or people who sign up for premium are N times more likely to get matches or go on dates. It does eventually draw you in, and you think, oh, what's the danger of trying it out? You try it out, and for a little while it works, and then you go back to the same sort of not much happening experience that you get without the premium.
Do you feel like the apps have changed over time?
The apps absolutely have changed over time, and some of you may have heard this term before. It's the term enshittification. It's a term frequently used in the tech space for when a company or a website or an app or something like that has sort of gone up, reached a really popular point, and then it starts becoming sort of shit. And the reason it tends to happen is you get a startup which starts up, and when they go through that stage, it's all about spending money to build the thing, and someone has to finance that. When it's hit that point at the top where it's hit critical mass, everyone's talking about it, it's wonderful, everyone loves it, the next step often ends up being IPO, so initial public offering, and it's all about making money at that point. And on a dating app in particular, what is the product? The users are the product. The people on the apps are the product. So it's not about making their experience good, it's about making sure they're resulting in the maximum amount of money coming out, so that the people who've put money into these apps when they start up are able to get their profits back out, or preferably even more profits. I've described some apps as being a bit like a meat market in more ways than one. They are very much a meat market. It's about profit.
Linda, can you relate to that?
Absolutely, I can relate to that. I love that saying, it's great. I see that they don't really want you to find a relationship, because if you find a relationship, then you're not going to be on a dating app. That's what it boils down to. It's all about making money. It can be a really demoralising process to go through. And yes, you might get those dopamine hits, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the lows. You get way more lows than you do highs.
Angus, do you believe these apps want us to find love?
I think finding love is kind of incidental to the business model of these apps. It might happen, but if it does, it's kind of a fortunate coincidence. A lot of the marketing spiel that the apps will say is that it's designed to be deleted, for example. But when you actually look at the way that the business operates, the way that even the app uses the time of day, the way it uses notifications, that's not what they're about. They're really about trying to change behaviour so that people just keep coming back to it.
Is it possible to beat the algorithm and better your odds?
If you're in the right group of people, which again fundamentally really comes back to how attractive you're deemed, if you're in the right cohorts, you can definitely use the boosts and these sorts of features to really increase the surface area of the apps and to get much more exposure and to get more people kind of connecting with you. But to some extent, it's going to be relatively fruitless if you're not kind of what people using the app are favouring, what they're really looking for.
Lisa, do you believe dating apps are helping us to find love?
I think that certainly they are a conduit to making connections. I think that people have started to think that relationships are almost more discardable as a result of dating apps. So there is a level of disposability now applied to our relationships as a result of dating app use. I think that people are definitely leaning towards meeting offline in an analogue environment more so.
What can happen if we keep swiping for no return? We don't find love.
I guess, it's a disconnection, it's loneliness, it's all of those sorts of elements that, take away from actually connecting with other people in a face-to-face environment. It does reinforce those elements of disposability as well, the idea that the grass is always greener on the other side. And I think ultimately, as a society, we tend to be really focused on the idea of the new and new things. It's all part of consumer culture as well, and the dating apps sort of play into that desire as well.
Amanda, you and your sister Cassandra use dating apps in the Northern Territory. What's it like to search for love in a smaller dating pool?
It's a small community. Everyone knows someone. If you're talking about a guy, your girlfriend's going to know who it is. They're going to know if he's married, if he's single, if he's got children, So you basically get the information firsthand pretty much up front.
So someone's kind of cheating or acting not right. Do you kind of warn people about it?
Yes, we do. Yes.
How do you do that?
I have a Facebook group that I started, and let me just say what the slogan, what See You in the NT is an unofficial tourism slogan for the Northern Territory, and it means see you in the NT, but it's spelled C-U-N-T. So my Facebook page is called Hey Sis, is this your See You in the NT? So it's all women. If we swipe right and we get a match with someone, we'll put him up. Does anyone know this guy? The women will comment and say, yes, I've had a 3-year DV relationship with him. Don't go into that. Or, yes, no, I know his wife. He's married. So it's like a sisterhood type group where we just warn other women about people that we've met online.
Cassandra, do you think online dating makes it easier to cheat?
Definitely it does. And I've seen it firsthand. And I think it gives men the opportunity, like we've all been speaking today, they aren't just talking to you, and also women too. They're talking to 5 other people because they are waiting for the next best thing to come up. I'm not particularly like that. I like to think the person I'm talking to is the person I want to engage with and move forward with. But I see that quite often. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm a professional. And I just think, why aren't I good enough? What makes me not good enough for someone to want more? Our parents are celebrating 60 years of marriage. And you know what? I'm 56 and I just think I'd be flat out to see if I'd have a marriage of 5 to 10 years, which I find really sad because I just think that's not how I envisaged my life to be. I wanted that white picket fence. I wanted the husband. I wanted kids, but our life has dealt us a different lot of cards. I met the wrong men in my life, but in saying that, those men have showed me what love is, and I am open. I've gotten better with my relationships as I've gotten older, where I used to be a tad bossy, and my sister goes, don't speak to them like kids. They're not kids, because we are both teachers, and it's like the reality kind of sinks in that as each relationship passes, you learn from that and it makes you a better person to deal with after you've left that relationship.
Linda, are people always honest in online dating apps?
I think it's probably women that are more guilty of putting up photos that make them look 20 years younger. I've always been pretty honest with my photos. Some photos I'm a bit barefaced, other photos I've got the full makeup on. I have a bit of a different photos. I've had a lot of men say when I've actually met them, oh, you look like your photo. And I remember going, well, yeah, of course I do. and I've been told a lot of stories about that, I've been to some dates and the woman's walked into the room and they virtually haven't recognised them. But certainly I've noticed with some of the photos with men that you can see it's a bit fuzzy and they're not really clear. Lots of them wearing sunglasses, particularly in my age group, because of the fact that You know, we're a bit older and we've got a few more wrinkles and all the rest of it, and maybe not as savvy in regards to changing the photo. But I think men are probably more guilty of not making enough of an effort in regards to their photos. Some photos I just look at and just think, there's just no words that I can explain. I don't get why you're going to get up on a dating app and put up these really horrible photos. And just a really big tip, guys, is do not put a photo up of you holding a fish.
Oh my God.
Obviously, a few people can relate to those photos. I'm not against men, obviously, that fish, if that's what they like to do. But if you're genuinely wanting to find somebody, then make a bit of an effort. That's what I look for. If they've made an effort with their photos and they've got a variety, and one of them, they might be at a wedding, or maybe they are just lounging around by the pool having a drink. But yeah, just that effort.
Have you ever felt the need to be flexible with your own truth on the apps?
I'll admit to the fact that I'm actually now, I've just turned 60, and with regards to the lady over there saying that once she hits 40, she's not going to get any more dates, I'm just thinking, well, wait until you hit 60. It's a whole different kettle of fish, because it's the same thing. It's no different in regards to men are definitely looking for younger women, and I will maybe shave 3 years off my age. But I certainly won't say that I'm 10 years younger than I am, because I just think if you go along to a date, then they're just going to know straight off the bat that you've been lying on your app. I'd like to think I'm honest. Whenever I've been on an app, I'd like to think I'm honest. Sometimes I'll change photos a little bit. I don't really feel that comfortable with completely lying about who I am.
Josh, have you come across dishonesty in your online dating?
I have, yeah. There's a big subculture in the gay community, especially with like Grindr, for example, which is more of like a sex-based app. But there's a lot of straight men on these apps that are looking for fun, or they're not quite comfortable with their sexuality. So a lot of my friends do engage, or have sort of had incidences with a lot of married men that sort of are seeking that sort of experience or that excitement that comes through the apps, and it's a really common thing. I met a really cool guy, super nice. He drove 3 hours to meet me, so I thought, effort, like kudos to him. Good communication, great after engagement, like just kept chatting. It was really, really nice. And I kind of got a little bit excited. I thought, oh, like this is someone worth it. I was just with one of my random friends, just hanging out one day, and I said, oh, I met this guy. He's really cool. He lives in this location, and it's a very unusual location. And my mate goes, wait, what? I know that location. He goes, is it this guy? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, he messaged me yesterday asking for me to invite him over so he'd come stay. So he was sort of lining up places to stay while we were going on dates. So he would hook up with a guy, obviously to have a bed for the night, and then we would go on a wholesome date because he knew that was my intention. So yeah, it's always fun,
How do you feel when things like that happen?
If the eye roll emoji could be a word, that is literally how I feel.
Holly, you describe yourself as a matchsmith. What do you do?
So essentially I manage sometimes even ghost matching and ghost swiping for some of my clients, but I also perfect and polish those profiles. So I'm helping them curate their bios, choose their photos, help with their overall dating strategy, everything and anything.
So people pay you to sort of be them, in a sense? You're pretending to be your clients?
That's my most sort of premium level all-access service, and it does start with a very in-depth, one-to-one conversation with that client. What are their deal breakers? What are they looking for? Are they the right fit for this kind of service? But it might be a busy corporate who outsources everything else in their life, like laundry or their food prep, and they just want to maintain that momentum, but they just aren't online enough to be able to match. So I'm able to kind of shortlist for them people that I think would be good potential matches, start those conversations off, make sure there's no red flags, and then hand over that shortlist to the client.
How would you describe your clientele?
Yeah, so they're quite broad. I would say 30 to 60 plus, with slightly more male skewed. They're busy people, but they're also people coming to me really for very objective advice. So it makes sense at times you need someone to say, hey, actually there are a few tweaks and I can help you with those.
What are the biggest mistakes we can make with the dating profiles?
The dreaded fish photo, male or female. I think, the Thailand, I'm lying with a tiger shot, it's interesting, but it's been done. Mirror selfies that kind of look like a serial killer has taken them. You know, just those little things. And I think photos are what we're seeing. As much as we don't like to hear it, photos on these swipe-based apps are so important. So you've got to get at least your 1 to 3 hero shots right. And that's where I also come in, and whether it's providing and supporting with a professional photo shoot or just saying, hey, this is the photos I think you need to get your profile up to par.
Can you help clients get on the right side of the algorithm to beat those odds?
I think taking a break, if you're feeling frustrated, is one thing, and coming back fresh. Maybe it's starting on a new app altogether for a new pool of people. And I think a positive attitude, as frustrating as it can be at times, is so important. Being open to new connections and not seeing every date as this is the one. I'm going to meet the one tonight. It's kind of like going for job interviews. It's a muscle that you have to use. So taking it, learning from it, and saying each date is a step towards that right person can help. But I'm also helping people carve out those time wasters. Time wasters are those pen pals that want a self-esteem boost. They just want to chat to you on the app for days and days. And I help my clients weed out those people and move on. It kind of takes the power back as well to say, hey, I'm done with that, politely, but I want someone who wants to meet me off the app, and I want to move my clients off the app as soon as possible.
Let's go. Good girl. Good dog. I just felt really, really sick. Good girl. I knew it had something to do with my mental health. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just realising I was lonely. I downloaded something called Stitch. It was for people over 50. It was about going out and doing things, and it wasn't a dating site.
I was married for 41 years. After I separated, I moved to Melbourne. I didn't have any friends, so I thought, I better go and find some. When I downloaded Stitch, I was looking for a friendship mainly, for romance as well.
What I was looking for from the app was to go out and do things and connect with people and just not be lonely, sitting at home, lying in bed by myself. I wasn't looking for romance.
I thought, wow, I like this guy. He was just so nice and respectful. Where's he been all my life?
After Geeta and I met at one of the Stitch events that I organised, we spoke on the phone every day. Is Geeta there? Is me there?
I had written a nice, beautiful, heartfelt message to Daryl. I decided to tell him how I felt. I wrote, P.S. You, who doesn't want a relationship, you've just broken my heart. It was a now or never moment.
I said, oh, this is awkward. Overnight I thought, oh, I've got a friend here who's hurting, and I realised that I had feelings too, so.
He messaged me back with the song, Meet Me Halfway. And with that, I cried and I thought, he does like me.
I was in love with her, but didn't realise it. I was just so emotionally shut down. Good morning. That was 2.5 years ago, and we're happy and married in the heart.
Geeta, how are things with you and Daryl now?
Great. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Are you living together?
Yes, we are. We've been living together for
10 months. 10 months. Yeah.
Aww. Daryl, are you still using the app that you met Geeta on?
Yes, because it's a community, and it's a community of friends. We still both on the app are volunteering to organise events for people in the community. Stitch is a not-for-profit, and it's 100% volunteer driven, and what we do is we just organise coffee catch-ups, lunches, movies, anything for people over 50 to connect, form friendships, and occasionally, well, you might meet that special someone.
Jana, you've described dating apps as a bit of a hot mess. Do you think they're as popular as they once were?
No, I don't. I think we all went through the excitement of the apps and swiped till our hearts were content, and then they stopped being content. And I know I've got some bad date experiences from the apps. Most of my friends all have a story of a bad date experience, and they range, you know. There's been some scary ones, and there's just been some really uncomfortable ones, dealing with catfish, dealing with people who probably shouldn't be on dates. And I think we've all got the fatigue. We're all a little bit worn out.
Where do you think people are going now?
Definitely in real life. I've noticed in the last 3 to 6 months a massive change in people craving that in real life experience. And we're finding it through swim clubs, there's book clubs now where people come together, there's sauna clubs, because we all are a little bit scarred from the speed dating, like we're all a bit triggered. That was also a hot mess. But I think now if you find that right environment where you feel comfortable in, which could be an exercise club or a book reading club or anything, they're out there now. And I think businesses are jumping on, like bookstores are jumping on and hosting these nights. It's not just bars running single nights. There's a lot more places to go find them.
Lisa, is that a trend that you're seeing, singles wanting to meet offline in more traditional ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there was a very prevalent sociocultural narrative in my research that indicated that people wanted to meet that person face to face. So definitely there's this movement towards more analogue offline meetings, whether they are the swim clubs, the running clubs, the yoga clubs and all that sort of thing.
What do you think online dating will look like in 30 years' time?
I certainly think there's going to be a lot more integration of AI. So dating apps are now using AI, for example, to start messaging. So if you don't know how to start a conversation, you don't want to start with the very generic hey sort of thing, which gets you nowhere. You know, dating apps give you the opportunity of actually constructing your message and continuing on that conversation. So certainly I think that there's going to be a lot more AI integrated within dating apps, but also I think this offline component is going to be integrated in some way, you know, similar to what Stitch is sort of talking about in terms of those face-to-face meetings as being a next component to dating apps.
Linda, you've been hooked on swiping in the past, but you've deleted the apps. What's your plan now?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it at all. I'm just not interested in being on dating sites anymore. They're exhausting because ultimately there's a lot of vulnerable people out there that get onto these sites and they don't see the damage that they could be doing to people. And, you know, I've certainly had moments where I've been down and I've recognised that and I've just had to go, got to get off this thing. This is just not really good for your mental health. There's so much talk now about mental health, and if there's a shining light in this room is that dating apps absolutely impact on your mental health. They're toxic.
Angus, are you still using the apps?
I'm definitely not. I'm engaged to be married.
Oh, congratulations. When did you stop using them?
About the same time that I got together with my partner.
How did you meet your fiancé?
At the 20-year high school reunion.
No way.
So actually we'd gone to school together and we hadn't seen each other since we were about 17 or 16 even. Or you know, we'd sort of very briefly run into each other once or twice. The apps have increased the surface area of the number of people that you can meet so dramatically. You can meet thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times more people. But then, ironically, I end up getting together with someone I knew from school.
Cassandra, will you keep looking for love online?
Of course I will. I would like to try anything. I've also tried other avenues, like I've signed up and volunteered as much as I could, because I know that when you're volunteering you kind of check out the guys you're working with and think, oh, I wonder if he's single. And so I tried different avenues, but I just feel like I would like that in my heart, that there's hope that there is somebody out there. And if it means staying on a dating app to find that person, I will. And I would hope, there's always hope, that there is that one person out there.
Amanda, how about you? Will you keep looking for love online?
I'm still on the apps, but I'm like with Cassandra, we're the same. Like, but if I find someone like that I click with, I will go off and I'll give them my 110%, and I stay with that. And then if I don't get that in return, then I'm back on it looking for the next. Yeah.
Giles, you've been using the apps for 6 years.
Yep.
Will you persist?
At this stage, yes, I'll be actively looking both online and offline, because what are the other options there? Don't look. So yeah, I'll still be looking online on the apps, but obviously with a certain amount of moderation. I have a strategy for how I interact with people on those apps. I know exactly what I'm looking for as well. I don't tell any lies, any fibs on there. I am who I am. And I'm just going to keep doing that, and hopefully there's someone out there for me.
Josh, after 2 decades of looking for love online,
Oh my gosh.
are dating apps still worth the gamble?
They are. I think for me, it's about just having accountability of myself and how I am on the apps. And I think through that, I remain my authentic self, and that will eventually attract someone that I want to be with. I think that's takes the game part out of the actual app of the game.
So the white picket fence is still a dream for you?
For sure. Yeah, I think that's always our hope. It's that little boy that I used to always have that dream as a little guy, and now I still have it. I'm just a lot older and a little bit greyer and a bit balder.
I hope that for you and for everyone else in this room, if that's what you're looking for. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. You can catch up on this episode or any others on SBS On Demand. I'll see you next time.